All right, y'all. Welcome back to another trading session. I'm Steven, and this is episode 20. And we're doing a little Sydney or overnight session scalping. And we're going to look at Edgeful here. We're going to kind of do this on the fly. So, what we kind of looked at, we're just playing around with some of these reports. We chose a scalper report and we chose outside days. So I'm going to come into TradingView and we're just going to show you, because this is where I do all my charting, and I enter on Quant Tower because I can copy trade. So what we're looking at is I have a couple things on this chart. It's a fresh chart. We're outside of the New York session, so I can get rid of that because we're not trading it anymore. And you're going to see that I have some green rectangles, some red rectangles. This red line is a anchored VWAP from the previous swing low here, and this was from basically the end of the day. And you could see price reacted from it. It's bounced off it a couple times right now, and we're kind of in a range. But the first thing we're going to look at is it's an outside day. An outside day is when the open and the high, or the high and the low, open and the close, or the high and the low of the session for Sydney. In this case, we're trading Sydney. It's basically the 1800 open, or 6 p.m. open till 3 a.m., which is basically when London starts right now. So what we can see is that price opened up into the Sydney session here outside. So it's an outside day. So we looked at that report, and we come back into Edgeful right now, and we'll see that on Fridays, 71% of the time on a bullish outside day, which is what we have, price did not retrace back into the zone. So back into previous days range. So that's the first report, right? We did it by weekday. We could also do it by standard, and it's still 71%. It did not. And the last 5 times it happened, it did not reverse at all back into the zone. So those are pretty good odds. I'll take 70%. So now we just need to find an entry. Well, I entered a little prematurely, so just a bad habit. I need to get better. So, mistakes were made. But what you're going to see here is that we have a fair value gap in this area. I could have waited, right, until we maybe came back down just below. I could have entered a little bit lower, right, and then really minimize risk. But because we see this anchored VWAP, which just gives us a little bit of confidence that, hey, if we stay above this line, price is going to continue to go up. It's sloping up. And then we have these, you can't even see it, my bad, these rectangles. So this VWAP is sloping up, right? This anchored VWAP from the swing low here on a 5-minute chart. And we ripped up, retraced, came back, didn't clean this little fair value gap that we have here, this bullish fair value gap. We tapped back into both the VWAP and this fair value gap, not fully mitigating it with a body close, just with a wick. And we bounce out of it, we tap back in, and now we are hopefully moving back up towards this bearish fair value gap. So our first scalp of the day is taking about 10 points, and we're going to put our stop obviously behind this fair value gap around 23.56. $23,356, taking our profit at around, let's see what we have in Quant Tower here. I'll pull it up. I already put it in. You'll see 23,556 for the target. We entered at 23,546, and we're exiting at 23,536 for 10 points. So That's the plan, right? Again, a little premature on the entry, but because we see this bullish fair value gap here, and we are getting some resistance there, I think we're in a pretty good spot for our stop. Is that 23.5? Does that say 36? Yeah, 36. It could be safe to give it a couple extra points, but we're just not going to do that, right? That was our plan. So if we get stopped out at 10 points, perfectly fine. We take our first loss. And this is how we decided to get into this scalp, though. We saw a anchored VWAP that we were reacting off of. We saw some fair value gaps, in this case a bullish one where we reacted off of. Looks like we're getting a little bit more resistance on there now. We see a bearish fair value gap that we will likely react and range back and forth into this range. And it looks like we're going to get stopped out. So there we go. We get stopped out. I'm not opposed to getting back in on this. Especially look at that wick that we just created. That's a pretty strong wick, right? A wick down. So we'll wait for this candle to close. It just pretty much opened. So this is a new 5-minute candle. And we may try to re-enter and see, or we can wait until price reaches this next bullish fair value gap. Now this zone is canceled, so I would expect price to come back down, right? So this is going to be a really easy trade, I think. So we'll let price come back down, or we'll see if it comes back above the VWAP and starts to move up. Again, not opposed to re-entering. So that's kind of what we're looking at now. I'll pause the video. We'll come back. And before I do that, though, let's take a look at our first loss since we're reviewing right on the spot. I do think this is a better entry spot. And if we close back into the previous day's range, maybe we might want to look at some things to consider reversing down to these other fair value gaps here, and maybe reverse our bias if we get a candle close into here into a short. I would be okay to do that. So we are looking to get into some scalps tonight and just have a little bit of fun. We're not going to take it too serious. We're just going to come up with a good plan and go for it. Let's see what we lost in that trade. That was a 2-contract trade, and we're down $21, $22 or so. And we'll close out this resting order that doesn't need to be on. So back to TradingView. We'll hit the pause button and we'll continue the video shortly. Okay, so a couple of things I just kind of noticed is that something that I should have considered prior to entering, which aligns better with what I said about prematurely entering here, was to enter at one of these lower fair value gaps, maybe this narrower one right here, just above yesterday's high, Sydney session high. And you'll notice that we have this range here that was created today. This was between 1600 and pretty much 1800 or 1700. So the hour after traditional markets closed, we created this little range, and we could expect price to return to 50%, maybe 70% of this range. So I would not be opposed to taking this long, which I'll just mark out now. And obviously we're going to take it in quant hour. I would not be opposed to taking this long right here with a stop below the zone. and take profit at the top of the zone. So that might be the next trade that I'm looking for. And if we break through this zone, I'll be looking to take a short back in to tap into a deeper area of this fair value gap, this bullish fair value gap. So that's kind of the plan right now. While we're at it, let's go into the browser and let's just take a look at the fair value gap report. So we're going to we already know about the outside day, so we don't need to open up this report. We're going to go into fair value gaps. So during the Sydney session, we know that fair value gaps are going to be mitigated about 77% of the time over the last 6 months. Now, let's look at the last 1 month. 69% of the time. 3 months, 74% of the time. 6 months, 77% of the time. So, splitting the difference, I'm confident at least 70% of the time, maybe 75% of the time. Same thing with these bearish fair value gaps. 85% of the time, they've been mitigated over the last 3 months. 89%, so even more so. And that's 100% mitigated, by the way. And 80%. So the bearish fair value gaps are getting mitigated a little bit more. Let's go by, that's on Wednesdays. Disregard that. Let's get rid of Wednesdays. Let's look on Fridays, because Sydney Friday is basically where we're at right now. 79 and 81% of the time. Wednesdays are on there. Let's get rid of Wednesdays. We don't want Wednesdays. Still 80% of the time on Fridays, both bearish and bullish fair value gaps. So that's going to be our scalping strategy today. We know it's an outside day. It rarely retraces back in. And we're going to be looking for scalp longs and then scalp shorts out of these fair value gap zones. We know they're going to get mitigated, not all of the time, and that only counts for the fair gaps that were created inside of the time frame and the session that you're working in. So back to TradingView. Looks like we cleaned out that gap and it looks like we're headed back up. So if I get a candle close here, I'm actually not opposed to re-entering right now, to be honest, because that's a pretty strong candle and we got a wick on the bottom. So, and we're just going to ride this up, maybe all the way up to here. But in the meantime, this one we can plan on getting fully mitigated. So maybe we're going to wick through and maybe take out the high. So let's enter. I like this. So we're going to go ahead and enter. Join the ask for 2 contracts. We're going to target the high. I believe that's right. Put our stop. Below the low. We have some resistance prior. So it's likely we're not going to come back and get wicked out there. But it could happen. So we're taking on, what is this? 23,528, 23,544. Like 15 points. And at the top side, we have about 23 points. Let's just double check that number. 23,567 coming back. Oh, you're in. I'm already in TradingView. So Sorry about that. 23,557 all the way up to 23,568, 23,567. I like that. So that's what we're going to go with. So we are in the trade. You can see it on the screen. And maybe we stay in that range for a while. I might get out of this trade early. I'm not bound to taking it up here. I would reevaluate once we hit that bearish zone, because I do anticipate we are going to get a likely rejection for it, and maybe we tap it into it a couple times before we break through it. But price seems to be moving. So we clean the low here with a strong down wick, basically grabbing what looks to be liquidity, and now price is moving back up. Let's go back to TradingView because this is where I like to kind of watch the action. Now we are in the bearish fair value gap as we speak. We just wicked into it, not fully mitigating it yet. So that is a selling area. Supply zone. $5.26. Let me just make sure my stops and everything are in the right place. Okay, that's good. Yeah, I think we keep moving up. But, you know, we could range here for quite some time. So it is what it is. But we had a plan. We are executing it. We're not looking to come back into yesterday's range, and we're looking to fully mitigate the zone. We bounced off of it. And let's just make sure I'm not mitigating by a wick. It hasn't fully mitigated with a wick yet, so we still have a little bit of room to go. But let me just double check my report, because there's a couple things that you have to consider. By wick or by candle close. So we're going to look at candle close. And it's still 73%. By wick, it's 80% on Fridays on the 5-minute candle. So in either case, we have pretty good odds of fully mitigating, not returning to the previous day's range, and potentially continuing to move up. Which looks like we're doing now. Okay, so let me just double check back in TradingView here. We're still not fully mitigated. We have another minute until the candle close. And all these zones and mitigations and everything's based on the 5-minute candle time frame for what I'm working with here. And I'm not opposed to just taking profit right here. But based on what I see, more on the longer time frame or higher time frame, we are likely going to continue our move up. We have two swings. I would think we're going to swing up, and I wouldn't be surprised. May not be today, but I wouldn't be surprised that we shoot for the all-time highs tomorrow. It wouldn't surprise me that we close out up there. So it looks like we fully mitigated that zone. Well, we didn't get the close, so technically not. With a wick, we did mitigate. And now we're targeting the high. Another thing I like here is we do see some volume, and the VWAP is starting to slope up. So it looks like a pretty good trade. Anything could happen, but it's looking solid. I do expect pullbacks and for these zones to also be mitigated in this session before continuing up. So we could definitely be in this range for a while. And I'm going to move into Quant Tower for a moment. You'll still see TradingView here. And we still have momentum to the upside. Let's actually take a look at Bookmap. We haven't even factored in Bookmap. And wow, look at this. This is pretty cool. We definitely have some buying, aggressive buying happening. It's pushing the price up. And there's still a little bit of room in some orders to grab to the upside. Looks like $23,562. Now 23,567.5, right where I have my stop, is a big resistance zone. So I'm going to move it down one tick, and that's where we're going to take our profit if we hit that zone. If I see a big rejection here and something that I don't like on Bookmap, I'm just going to like market close the position and take profit, because right now we're $69 in, so it's a pretty good trade, pretty good scalp. So we're just changing our strategy a little bit for these overnight sessions, and this is actually a really good move. So still some, looking at Bookmap, we still have some room here to the upside. Not a lot of downward pressure yet. I could see a little pullback here, but there's lots of buyers, lots of buying interest. I would think some aggressive, the buyers have control. CVD is still negative. I don't think that's for the session. I think that's probably from yesterday. Let me change. Let's see what the session start. 9:30. Okay, so we need to change this to So my screen's a little glitchy. Y'all can't see it, but I dropped my monitor playing my Quest. I pretty much knocked it over playing tennis. So now my monitor kind of glitches out. So every once in a while I can't see it. So I have to just pause until it unglitches. All right, so our CVD is positive from the session start. It still looks like we have aggressive buying pressure. It's not flattening yet, and buyers are in control. We're getting a little bit of a pullback here. It could be some profit taking because I don't see a lot of aggressive selling going on. But we do have some resistance, and some limit orders that might get grabbed. Let's take another view. We'll come back into TradingView. And see if we can get to the top of that range. So I'm really enjoying the Edgeful tool. I'm still learning how to use a lot of the different reports, and I'm trying to think of ways how I can use them together, such as the outside day report. As we know, things are a little slower generally during this, evening session. Um, I'm just looking for ways to stack the reports on top of each other in a way that gives me higher probabilities. So stacking the outside day, high probability of it not coming back into previous day's range, along with these fair value gaps getting mitigated. And uh, so like here, honestly, we know it's going to come back, right? So I could take profit and re-enter and kind of take it back up. So I think what I'm going to do here, y'all, I'm going to give it a second. We're going to see if in bookmap if we get any more downward pressure. But I may just take this off and try to get back in on the bullish retest if we get any more resistance to the downside. But it still looks like it's holding pretty strong. So at the moment, I think, man, I'm really, really emotional about holding positions, but there's no reason to close it out. So we're just going to go with it. We're pretty close to our target. That's a strong rejection wick. And coming back into Quan Tower, see if we can actually hit our target. Then we'll take a little break, come back and look for another scalp, likely. Okay, so I like where we're at right now. We're getting a little bit of resistance. Let's come back into bookmap. Still looks pretty solid. And we hit our target. So good trade. Well planned out. Good execution. Didn't get greedy. Hit our target. Didn't close out prematurely. Looking at Quan Tower, we $87 on that trade. So coming back to the account, we are up 45.50 on the day, bringing balance up to 50,989.25. And we're gonna stop this video here. This will be the close of this episode, and we'll take a break, grab some food, and if we have something else that we see that's interesting, we're going to get into another scalp. I'm going to look at some of the reports. I'm going to look at some ways that I can manufacture a high probability trade, short-term scalp, and then we'll be back in a bit.